everybody. I'd like to wish you happy Mother's Day. I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. I know I have so far, and I actually came home from church and we went out to eat for Mother's Day after church, and I've already put pajamas on. I told my husband, I said, today is a lazy day for me. I'm going to put pajamas on early. I don't think anybody's coming to the house, and if they do, well, they're just going to have to see me in pajamas. So I already have pajamas on. I'm going to visit with you guys, and then I'm going to get some stitching in today. I hope you have the opportunity to visit with family and get some stitching in today as well, or watch floss tubes. Either one. It all pertains to our love of stitching, doesn't it? I'd like to welcome you to Sampler Sunday, and today I want to talk about a very special sampler. Of course, each sampler that I have, there's something about it that makes it special to me. But this particular sampler, I was so excited because it's kind of like my unicorn sampler. I really wanted at some point to find a sampler that was stitched by a little boy. And I happened to luck out and find this one. And the gentleman that I purchased it from, he said that his aunt by marriage had it, and it was passed down to her from her aunt, and they lived up around New York. And so as I began my research, I'm just absolutely nearly positive. I can't be 100%, but I'm as close as you can get to knowing that I found the little boy who stitched this. So I'm super excited to share what I found with you. But first of all, let me show you the sampler. It's kind of this is another one of those that's been nailed. It was not only nailed, it was folded and then nailed on the back. So the outside edge has some damage, but the sampler itself is still in good shape. Let me hold it back here where you can kind of see the whole thing. First of all, when I looked at the sampler, the thing that caught my eye on this was the fact that a little boy stitched it, and his name was William Booth. The next thing that caught my eye was that it's very symmetrical. He made sure that if he put a peacock on the left, he had a peacock on the right. And the same thing with all of the other little motifs. He's got some little cherubs up at the top, lots of flower baskets. There's the peacock. He's got some beautiful flowers. There's an urn with a bird. In the center, he has this nice large tree. And then once again on this side, you can see how he made sure to make it very symmetrical. And then at the bottom, he has this nice large rose. And then it says William Booth, work, February, we'll have to look here. Finish this work, February 3rd, 1831. I was trying to read it from the back, and well, that just wasn't working too good. And then it has a very nice border all the way around it. So William did a lovely job on his sampler. And if I just look at the motifs, there's nothing really to tell me this was stitched by a little boy. He didn't have things that you might think a young boy might put on his sampler. But I have to tell you about the verse, because when I read the verse, I could just hear a little boy saying this. I know I have two sons, and there's just something about boys, and I could just hear my boy saying something like this. And the verse says, prepare to die, for die I must, and still I am moldering in the dust. When I am dead and in my grave, this piece of work I hope you save. And we can just hear little boys talking about moldering in the dust and when they're dead. And I know samplers talked about death sometimes. There's lots of mourning samplers. But this particular sampler, that little verse really touched me. Not only because I could hear a little boy saying that, but he hoped someone would save his work. And so I feel very honored that I get that opportunity to not only save his sampler and see that it is taken care of But I get the opportunity to reproduce this sampler so other stitchers can enjoy William's work. And I just think that's an honor and a privilege to get to do that. Some other things that I wanted to share about this sampler is the colors. Now, it's pretty faded on the front. You can still see the basic colors, of course. And so I want to look at the back, and you can see the colors are a little more vibrant, especially in the little cherubs and the peacocks. The greens are a little more vibrant on the back as well. So that's going to help me whenever I do start charting this. This sampler will be released next year at market, next March. And so it's down the list a little ways on my charting. But when I get ready to chart it, I'm thankful that I can look at the back and get a little bit closer to what colors I really need to use on this sampler. And another thing, this was something a customer commented, a lady that's on my Facebook page. I was talking about this sampler earlier, and she said, oh, you know what you need to do with that verse? You need to make a label, because that would be a perfect saying to put where you can put a sticker on the back of your samplers that say, I stitched this sampler, this is the year that I stitched the sampler, and any other special information you want to include, like did you stitch it for a particular reason. And so I'm going to take the verse that little William used and one of his motifs, I'm not sure which one yet, but I'll have those available next year at market too, and make some labels that you could use to put on the back of your completed samplers. And don't we wish everybody had labels when we start reproducing samplers? It would sure make our life a little bit easier. But one thing William did that helped me, he did not put the age that he was when he stitched the sampler. And so, like the sampler last week, I did have the age, and that helped tremendously when I started researching. William did not have his age. He just had when he completed the sampler. But that's still a good hint. And so what I did, I talked to the gentleman who I purchased the sampler from and found out the area that this sampler would have come from. And so that was a huge hint to help me when I started looking for William in Ancestry and in Family Search. And so what I did, I guesstimated. I said, well, he completed the sampler in 1831. About how old would he have been, probably? And it's just a guess. And most samplers stitched by young people were done between the ages, some of them were done as early as 5, 6, and 7 years old. But a lot of them, in the ones in particular I have, are done between the ages of 9 and 12. So I use that kind of as a guideline, a range in which to start my search. And so when I put that in, I also knew the area that this came from. I found William Booth, and his middle name is Wisdom, William Wisdom Booth. And the dates matched up. He would have been 11 when he stitched the sampler. And a lot of the information about him made sense. We know why the young ladies stitched samplers. A lot of them, they were looking for a husband. So if they were from a well-to-do family, their parents might have taken their sampler that they stitched. They would have displayed it maybe in the parlor or in the hallway, somewhere prominent where potential suitors could see what a lovely job their daughter did stitching, and would be a wonderful wife at some point. Or if they were, say, an orphan, like the Bristol samplers, they stitched a sampler to show their proficiency at needlework, because that was going to be important for marking linens and laundry. And that was their resume to potentially get a job as a house servant. So the samplers were used by young ladies for a variety of reasons. Most young boys would not have stitched a sampler. So why did William stitch a sampler? And I think I have the answer I'm going to share with you in just a minute. But first of all, let me tell you a little bit about William. I'm looking at my cheat notes here. I said he was 11 when he completed his sampler. He was born in New Jersey. He married Elizabeth Dunham in 1843. They had 9 children, and when he got married, he moved to Michigan. And his job in the census was noted as being a jeweler. And that's where I'm getting the feeling of why William might have stitched a sampler. If he was a jeweler, in my mind, I picture a jeweler as someone who likes the arts, who likes to make things. He's taking rare jewels, he's setting them in rings and necklaces and other things to make something of beauty. And so William, if that was his interest in becoming a jeweler, he probably had an interest in making pretty things. And perhaps, I don't know, it's simply a guess, but perhaps he saw his mother or some of his sisters stitching, and that appealed to him. He could see they were creating something very pretty, and he wanted to try it himself. So I'm going to give William an A+ on his sampler making because he did a beautiful job. After he got married and moved to Michigan, he actually published the first abolitionist newspaper for about 2 years. He also served in the military during the Civil War here in the States when he was 41. So he wasn't a young spring chicken when he went and joined the military. I was kind of surprised at that. But at that time, they were probably taking anybody and everybody who would sign up. It was their duty. If you were an able-bodied man, it was your duty to serve your country. And so when he joined the military, he joined as a quartermaster sergeant. I'm not really sure what that would have entailed, but it says that he was promoted to a full hospital steward. So he must have worked with the injured. He was in the military from 61 to 63, and then he received a disability discharge. And I've looked, and I'll continue to look. I wonder, did he get injured during the Civil War, or did he just fall ill? I haven't found what happened to make him get that discharge, but he was discharged. He got home, continued to do his jewelry work, and I'm sure continued to work on the newspaper. But he died at only 49 years old, and it was due to a fall. He fell, and it caused internal injuries, which he died from. So that was kind of sad. He went through all of that, the Civil War service, survived, and then ended up dying at a young age from a fall. So I thought that was kind of tragic, but I'm so thankful that we have William Sampler, and we can let his memory live on with that. I was curious about what makes a little boy sampler and an American sampler kind of rare. And I started reading this week, trying to find out, why would an American sampler be rare? Well, lots of times, if you find an American sampler, most of them are going to come from the East Coast, because that would have been the first settlements. Very rarely, the pioneers, as they were moving west, they had a rough time. They would have had, that would not have been something they would have carried with them. They would have taken the necessary things to just survive. And so I think that's a big reason why a lot of these are so rare. I also was lucky enough to find photographs of William. So I'm going to show those to you. This, of course, is when he's an older man. But he still looks very young in these pictures to me. But it's kind of fun to see him. So here's a picture of William. It doesn't say how old he was in this photograph. My mom said she thought he looked a little bit like Abraham Lincoln. I guess he did. If he had a top hat, maybe he could pass for Abraham Lincoln. And while I'm speaking of Abraham Lincoln, I had a gentleman at market, I was telling him about this sampler, and he said, oh my goodness, Booth, and that would be close to the time period. I wonder if he's related to John Wilkes Booth, who actually shot Abraham Lincoln. So I've been digging. I can't find any connection. Now, William's father's name was John Booth, but it was not John Wilkes Booth. There's a difference. And everything that I have found so far does not have a connection to Abraham Lincoln's assassin. So apparently this was a good thing. His family did not break any laws. Then I found this. I thought this was kind of interesting. It said Booth's Soldiers and Citizens Record Album. And this is just like something that would have come out of a scrapbook. It has a picture of him. It has his signature, which I think is kind of cool. You can see how he would have signed his name. It gives his parents' names. His father was a pastor, Reverend John Booth. His mother's name was Jane Ann Wisdom, so he took his mother's maiden name for his middle name. It tells about his service in the military, and then it gives information about where he was born and when. So I'm going to show you that. It's kind of a neat picture. Once again, he's a young looking guy there in the picture. So just a little bit of fun to learn some personal information about the people who actually stitch these samplers. So I'm going to show you the sampler again. And I know it's kind of hard because it is a little bit larger one. But I think William did a great job. And I'm excited about reproducing this one. I appreciate all of you who are joining me for these Sunday samplers, or Sampler Sundays. I'll get it together here in a minute. And I hope to hear more, so please comment below with any questions you might have. I did a poll, or a couple polls actually, on my Facebook page this week, and I just thought it was kind of interesting. One poll that I put up was, what's your favorite part of a sampler? If you enjoy stitching samplers, what part do you enjoy the most? And the thing that received the most votes was the motifs. Everybody enjoyed stitching motifs. And so for this sampler that we just looked at today, William's sampler, he had a lot of motifs. So if that's what you enjoy stitching, you would probably enjoy his sampler. Then I asked another question, kind of followed that up with the second question and said, what's your favorite motif to stitch? And the one that received the majority of votes was everybody enjoyed stitching houses. And I do too. I enjoy especially brick houses. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like I'm laying the bricks and they're coming together as I'm stitching. So brick houses are probably my favorite to stitch as well. So it was kind of fun. I appreciate all of you that took part in those polls, and it kind of gives us a little peek into why everybody still likes to stitch samplers. So hopefully those of you that are new to samplers, it kind of helps you understand it a little bit better too. So last week I had a giveaway for a chart, Ruth Ann Boardman, and that winner was Anna Brannen. So Anna, congratulations. I'll get this shipped out to you. If you will send me an email, and I have the email down below, I will ship this to you. So just send me your address, and congratulations. I hope you enjoy stitching that. This week I have another chart to give away, and it's a sampler. This is Little Mary Ellis, 1850, and this chart actually has two. It has the reproduction, which is on the front, and I also did an adaptation where I turned it into a drum. So you can pick whichever version you want to do of this little sampler. And this is a good one to start on. If you've not stitched samplers yet, it's a small enough one that you should be able to stitch it fairly easy. It's no specialty stitches, it's just straight cross stitch. Next Sampler Sunday will be full. I'll have lots to share with you. So until then, enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day, get some stitching in, some visits with family, and I'll talk to you next Sunday. Thanks, bye.